Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today in this video I would like to read an article entitled Why a Maritime Focus is Vital for Vietnam's Security. Geography influences the strategic choices of all countries, but Vietnam is an interesting case of a swing state in comparative grand strategy terms. The industry occupies the eastern part of the Indo-Chinese peninsula with an allocated coastline of 3,260 km facing the South China Sea. Vietnam also sits unambiguously in continental Asia, sharing a 1,300 km border with China, as well as abutting Cambodia and Laos. This duality in Vietnam's situation, straddling Southeast Asia's geostrategic fault line, gives it unusual flexibility to develop a continental or maritime orientation. Despite a strong landward pull in Vietnam's history, Hanoi has lately and perhaps decisively adopted a maritime course. Through the country's grand strategy remains dynamic and is actively debated among observers. In the second half of the 2000th century, Vietnam's communist leadership was absorbed by the anti-colonial struggle and national unification. The long wars against France and then the United States, when Hanoi's ideological and material allies with the Soviet Union and China encouraged a continental disposition. Coastal supply routes were important to sustaining Hanoi's Revolutionary War effort in South Vietnam, but the main axis of supply ran overland through Laos and Cambodia. Along the Ho Chi Minh Trail, North Vietnam armed forces lacked the means to contest U.S. sea control in the South China Sea. China forcibly expelled South Vietnamese forces from the Paracel Island in 1974, though Hanoi maintained Saigon's claim. After reunifications in 1975, Vietnam's border conflict with China in 1979, and prolonged military intervention in Cambodia throughout the 1980s ensured that Hanoi was preoccupied by land-based threats for the remainder of the Cold War, with the exceptions of a brief clash with China in the Spratly Island in 1988. In the 20th century, however, Vietnam has transformed into an export-oriented economy that depends upon freedom of navigation in the South China Sea and beyond to deliver its prosperity. This has influenced its threat perceptions. The majority of Vietnam populations and infrastructure is concentrated on the coast, making it vulnerable to attack from the sea. Vietnam has to defend and police the oil, gas, and fish within its exclusive economic zone, as well as its territorial claims in the Spratly Islands. If in future China is able to exert uncontested control within the so-called 9-dash line and acquire access to a naval base in Cambodia, Vietnam could find itself encircled and vulnerable to blockade. Once access to seaborne trade is denied, Vietnam would suffer immediately and grievously. The move towards a maritime strategy is evidenced by change to Vietnam's defense capability. Despite the effect of the 2008 global financial crisis, Vietnam doubled its defense expenditure between 2006 and 2010. From 2009, began acquiring 6 Russian Kilo-class submarines armed with anti-ship and land attack develop supersonic cruise missiles capable of hitting China. The modernization of the Vietnam People's Navy was officially declared a priority at the 11th National Party Congress in 2011. The 2019 Defense White Paper put a seal of Vietnam's strategic reorientation by officially identifying it as a maritime nation. Vietnam is unlikely to prevail in a serious maritime conflict with China, but it has made significant investment to raise the cost of aggression. Despite this trend, it has been argued recently that Vietnam should look west for its survival and refocus its strategic attentions from the maritime domain to its land border because the balance of power on land works more in Vietnam's favor. According to this line of argument, Hanoi was little long-term hope of defending its maritime claims in the South China Sea due to the growing power disparity between China and Vietnam. But the strategic situation on land is less severe than it may first appear. In reality, a binary continental versus maritime dilemma is somewhat artificial. Vietnam will continue to look landwards for its security and to some extent for its prosperity too. Hanoi cannot overlook the possibility of invasions or incursions across its land borders. It is also the case that Vietnam's armed forces remain army-dominated for historical reasons. However, China and Vietnam signed a port treaty in December 1999, which has ratified in 2000. The two sides complete border demarcations in 2009. Although China has a dominant economic profile and significant political influence in both Cambodia and Laos, Vietnam's Southeast Asian neighbors remain sovereign states and are unlikely to allow the People's Liberation Army to launch attack on Vietnam from their territory. Even if Phnom Penh and Vientiane agreed to host PLA ground and air forces. So that's all the article. Bye bye and see you on the next part. Bye.